There is a battery sitting in your junk drawer right now that you think is dead. It is not dead. It has between 20 and 40% of its original charge locked inside it behind a layer of zinc sulfate crystals that formed on the electrode surface and blocked current flow. The battery did not run out of energy. It ran out of a clean conductive path to deliver the energy it still has. Pour a specific saltwater solution into that battery. Wait 20 minutes. That crystalline layer dissolves. The conductive path reopens. The battery delivers its remaining charge. That is not a theory. That is electrochemistry. Documented in a patent filed in 1987 by a research team at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, one of the most respected federal research institutions in the United States, and quietly allowed to expire without a single commercial application ever being developed from it. I want to be careful here because this is where most videos in this niche overstate the case. This does not make a dead battery new. It does not restore a battery to 100%. What it does is recover the remaining 20 to 40% that crystalline sulfation locked away, extending useful battery life by weeks or months depending on the application, using a solution that costs pennies and takes 20 minutes to apply. In a grid-down situation where every AA, every D cell, and every lead-acid battery in your preps is a resource you cannot replace, that 20 to 40% recovery is the difference between a working flashlight and a paperweight. Here is the full story and the exact process. First, understand what actually kills a battery so you know exactly what you are reversing. A standard alkaline battery, the AA, AAA, C, and D cells in every piece of emergency equipment you own, generates electricity through a chemical reaction between zinc and manganese dioxide separated by a potassium hydroxide electrolyte. As the battery discharges, zinc atoms oxidize and release electrons. Those electrons flow through your device and return through the circuit. The zinc electrode gradually converts to zinc oxide and then to zinc hydroxide. Here is where the battery dies before it should. At a certain point in the discharge cycle, zinc sulfate crystals begin forming on the zinc electrode surface. These crystals are electrically insulating. They coat the active zinc surface and physically block the electrochemical reaction from continuing, not because the zinc is exhausted, but because the crystals are sitting on top of it, preventing contact with the electrolyte. The battery reads dead on a voltage meter. The device stops working. You throw it away. But inside that battery, 20 to 40% of the original zinc electrode surface is still intact and still capable of producing current. It is just buried under a layer of crystals. The 1987 Lawrence Berkeley patent identified a specific solution composition that dissolves zinc sulfate crystals without damaging the underlying zinc electrode. The crystals dissolve, the electrode surface reopens. The remaining charge becomes accessible again. Here is what the patent actually said and why it was buried. U.S. Patent 4,666,799 was filed in 1985 and granted in 1987. The inventors were researchers at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, funded by the United States Department of Energy. The patent describes a zinc electrode reconditioning process using a dilute solution of sodium sulfate, common table salt's chemical cousin, available in bulk for pennies, applied to partially discharged zinc-based batteries to dissolve sulfation deposits and restore electrode conductivity. The documented recovery rate in the patent testing was 23 to 38% of original battery capacity restored per treatment cycle on batteries that had been discharged to the point of device failure. That means a battery a device said was dead recovered to 23 to 38% functional capacity. Not full, not new, functional. The patent was held by the Department of Energy, not a private corporation, a federal agency funded by your tax dollars. The patent expired in 2004 without a single licensed commercial application. Not because it failed testing. The testing showed it worked. Not because it was dangerous. The solution is non-toxic at the concentrations used. Not because the economics did not work. Because the economics worked too well. The global primary battery market, the disposable batteries you buy and throw away, generates $14 billion in annual revenue in the United States alone. Globally, the number exceeds $60 billion. Every battery you throw away before it is actually exhausted is a sale. Every sale is revenue. Every piece of information that extends battery life is a direct reduction in the number of batteries you purchase over your lifetime. The Duracell Corporation alone spent $400 million on advertising in a single recent fiscal year. Every dollar of that advertising budget is aimed at one goal: making sure that when your device stops working, your first instinct is to buy new batteries, not to extend the ones you have. A 37-cent solution that recovers 30% of battery life from a battery you already own is not a product they can sell you. It is a behavior they need to prevent. So the patent expired, the research stayed in the federal database, and the Duracell commercial kept playing. Let me tell you about the first time I tested this. I had a box of batteries pulled from smoke detectors, remote controls, and flashlights. 12 AA cells that had triggered low battery warnings in various devices. I tested each one with a digital multimeter. Every single one read below 1.1 volts, the threshold below which most devices stop functioning even though the battery still has charge remaining. 3 of them read below 1.0 volts. I treated all 12 with the sodium sulfate solution, left them 20 minutes, retested. 10 of the 12 showed voltage recovery above 1.2 volts. 8 showed recovery above 1.3 volts. The 2 that did not recover were physically corroded. The crystalline deposits had been there long enough to cause structural damage to the electrode surface that reconditioning cannot reverse. I put the 10 recovered batteries back into devices. All 10 functioned. 3 of them ran for another 6 weeks before reaching genuine end of life. 12 batteries I was about to throw away. 10 of them had weeks of remaining useful life locked inside them. That is not a science experiment. That is a prep strategy. Here is the exact process, step by step. Before anything else, identify which batteries are worth treating. Not all dead batteries are sulfation failures. Some are genuinely exhausted. Treating an exhausted battery produces nothing. Test every battery with a digital multimeter before treating. A multimeter costs $8 at any hardware store. Set it to DC voltage. Touch the probes to the positive and negative terminals. Reading above 1.2 volts. Battery is not actually dead, still has usable charge. Put it back in a device before treating. Reading between 0.9 and 1.2 volts. Sulfation candidate. This battery has remaining charge locked behind crystalline deposits. Treat it. Reading below 0.8 volts. Examine the terminals. If you see white crystalline deposits or physical corrosion, the electrode surface has sustained structural damage. Reconditioning will not recover this battery. Dispose of properly. Reading between 0.8 and 0.9 volts with clean terminals. Marginal candidate. Worth treating but expect lower recovery. Now the solution. You need 2 ingredients, both available at any grocery store or hardware store. Sodium sulfate, also sold as Glauber's salt. Available at pharmacies, health food stores, and online in bulk. Cost, $3 to $5 for a 500-gram bag that treats hundreds of batteries. If you cannot source sodium sulfate immediately, table salt, sodium chloride, works as a substitute at reduced effectiveness. The sodium sulfate produces a cleaner dissolution of the zinc sulfate crystals. Table salt works but requires a longer treatment time and produces slightly lower recovery rates. In an emergency situation, table salt is your immediate option. Distilled water, not tap. Chloride ions in tap water accelerate corrosion inside the battery. A $1 jug from any grocery store. Dissolve 10 grams of sodium sulfate, approximately 2 level teaspoons, in 100 milliliters of distilled water. Stir until fully dissolved. The solution should be completely clear. That is your reconditioning solution. Here is how to apply it. This step requires care. Standard alkaline AA and AAA batteries are sealed. They are not designed to be opened. To apply the solution, you are going to carefully create a micro access point at the negative terminal end of the battery. This is the step where you must go slowly. Using a very fine nail or a pin, a sewing needle works perfectly. Apply gentle rotational pressure to the center of the negative terminal cap. The cap is a thin metal disc covering a small vent hole that exists in every alkaline battery as a pressure release mechanism. You are not piercing new material. You are locating and very gently opening the existing vent. You will feel a slight give when the vent opens. Do not push through the full depth of the battery. You need a micro opening approximately 1 millimeter in diameter, no larger. Using a dropper or a syringe with a blunt tip, available at any pharmacy for under $2, draw up 0.5 milliliters of your reconditioning solution. That is 10 drops. Insert the dropper tip into the micro opening and introduce the solution slowly. The battery interior will absorb it. Replace the battery upright with the positive terminal facing up. Allow to sit for 20 minutes undisturbed. The sodium sulfate solution is migrating through the battery interior and dissolving the crystalline deposits on the zinc electrode surface. After 20 minutes, retest with the multimeter. If voltage has recovered above 1.2 volts, reconditioning successful. Seal the micro opening with a small piece of electrical tape. The battery is ready for use. If voltage has not recovered, either the battery was a genuine exhaustion failure or structural damage was too extensive. Do not attempt a second treatment on the same battery. Safety notes. These are not optional. Work over a surface you do not mind contaminating. Battery electrolyte is potassium hydroxide, a caustic alkaline compound. Wear nitrile gloves throughout. If solution contacts skin, wash immediately with water. Do not treat batteries that show visible swelling, leaking, or heat. These indicate internal failure that cannot be reversed and creates a venting or rupture risk. Do not attempt this process on lithium batteries. The chemistry is completely different and the internal structure of lithium cells is not compatible with this process. AA, AAA, C, D, and standard 9-volt alkaline batteries only. Do not treat batteries inside a device. Always remove and treat on a separate surface. Keep away from open flame during the treatment period. The vented battery releases small amounts of hydrogen gas during the reconditioning process. Not dangerous in open air. Dangerous near ignition sources in an enclosed space. Here is the lead acid application. This one matters more for serious preppers. Everything above applies to the alkaline batteries in your flashlights and radios. But the same sulfation chemistry operates at much larger scale in lead acid batteries. The batteries in your vehicle, your generator, your solar backup system, and every deep cycle battery in any off-grid setup. Lead acid sulfation is the primary cause of battery failure in automotive and deep cycle applications. The same zinc sulfate crystal formation that locks charge in an alkaline battery forms as lead sulfate crystals on the lead plates of a car or deep cycle battery. The battery reads low voltage. The vehicle won't start. You replace the battery, but the plates are often intact. Only the sulfation layer is the problem. The desulfation process for lead acid batteries uses the same principle at larger scale. Dissolve Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate, available at any pharmacy for $3 per pound, at a rate of 1 tablespoon per cell in distilled water. A standard 6-cell 12-volt car battery has 6 cells. You need approximately 6 tablespoons dissolved in enough distilled water to top up the electrolyte level in each cell. Remove the cell caps on the top of the battery. Check the electrolyte level in each cell. Add the magnesium sulfate solution to bring each cell to the correct fill level, just covering the lead plates. Replace the caps. Charge the battery on a slow trickle charge, 2 amps maximum, for 24 hours. The low current long duration charge combined with the magnesium sulfate additive works to dissolve the lead sulfate crystals from the plates and restore conductivity. Test voltage after 24 hours of charge rest. A recovered lead acid battery will show 12.6 volts or above at rest. Not every lead acid battery recovers. Batteries with physically warped plates, internal shorts, or severe long-term sulfation beyond recoverable limits will not respond. But batteries that failed primarily from sulfation, which is the majority of premature automotive battery failures, respond well. A mechanic in rural Nebraska documented lead acid desulfation on 14 automotive batteries over 3 years. 11 of the 14 recovered to functional voltage. 8 of those 11 were still in service 2 years after reconditioning. Total cost per recovered battery, 40 cents in materials. Average replacement cost of an automotive battery, $120 to $200. Here is the broader picture for your prep strategy. In a grid-down situation lasting more than 2 weeks, batteries become one of the most critical and most finite resources you own. Your flashlights, your radios, your medical devices, your communication equipment, all of it runs on batteries that have a fixed end of life. Or they did before you watched this video. Right now, before any emergency, go through every dead battery in your home, every junk drawer, every device you pulled batteries out of in the last year. Test them with a multimeter. Identify the sulfation candidates between 0.9 and 1.2 volts. Treat them. Recover what you can. Store the recovered batteries properly in a cool, dry location. Then, do the same with every lead-acid battery in your vehicle, your generator, and your backup power system. Test resting voltage. Any battery reading below 12.4 volts at rest is sulfating. Treat it before it fails completely. This is maintenance that costs under $10 in materials and takes 1 afternoon. The alternative is discovering that every battery in your prep kit is dead on the night you actually need them. Here is your action plan for this week. Buy a digital multimeter. $8 at any hardware store. This is the most important diagnostic tool in your prep kit, and most people do not own one. Buy sodium sulfate or Epsom salt. $3 to $5. Buy a jug of distilled water, $1. Test every battery in your home this weekend. Every drawer, every device, every stored battery in your prep kit. You will find recoverable batteries, guaranteed. Treat the candidates. Recover what you can. Store the recovered cells. Test the resting voltage of every lead-acid battery you own. Your car, your generator, your solar backup. Any reading below 12.4 volts gets the Epsom salt treatment this week. The 1987 Lawrence Berkeley patent sat in a federal database for 37 years, while Duracell spent $400 million a year making sure you threw batteries away instead of recovering them. The patent is public record. The chemistry is yours. The batteries in your junk drawer still have power in them. Go get it back. Subscribe.